Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to this new episode. And this episode is a follow-up on the previous episode. If you listened to the previous episode or you've watched it, I spoke about psychological safety, what it is, why it is important, and the tools or ideas you can use to bring that up in your team or in your organization. Some of you got back to me, messaged me, and they spoke about some challenges to that episode that they foresee, and that is accountability. One of the messages was, how then can I ensure accountability for my team as much as I want to show them that I care for them? Because otherwise, there are goals to be met, there are objectives to be met, there are sales targets to be met, and that needs to be absolutely the main focus of my organization. I hear you, I understand, and it's very, very crucial that accountability is imparted in your team so that you're able to meet the objectives. Psychological safety itself is very, very crucial, but the team needs to understand accountability. So today's episode is going to focus on balancing psychological safety with the real accountability. If I can say something before we start, is we don't have to choose between kindness and performance. That needs to be absolutely clear. Remember, in the previous episode, I was explaining psychological safety as being a genuine care for people, for humankind, being human. Because we establish the psychological safety lets people tell the truth and also learn out loud without fear. Now, for this episode, I'm introducing accountability. And accountability, simply put, is how do you ensure that bar you expect your team to reach or your team members to aspire to is met. Okay? And the glue that brings these two things together is you as a leader, as a supervisor, as a manager. So if you were to ask me what is my role or what this glue is, I will define it as this statement. You walk into your team member who has a challenge, who has issues with accountability, or the whole team as a whole, and say this is the standard, full stop. How can I help you get there? Close that quote. So that glue is that statement. This is the standard. How can I help you get there? So in the next few minutes, I'm going to go a little bit further and share the playbook that you can use for your team this week to help them be accountable. Okay? And there are 7 tools in this playbook. Okay. 1. Make standards unmissable. Define the behavior simply, not vibes, not how you feel. Don't assume that I want to give my team a window, an opportunity space to be human beings, that I care. Actually, that might end up being just vibes. So define that behavior. This is how you're going to do that. 2 things. Make sure you're very clear on your expectations. Please respond to the customer in 5 minutes. Once the customer calls, respond. Even if we don't have an answer, acknowledge them. The redeployment checklists has been marked as everything is clear in the toolbox before we start something. Okay? If there's an incident, it must be reported in 10 minutes, instantly. So it's very, very clear what the standards are. But you need to go a little bit further, or 2-3 steps more, and explain why that is important. You can explain why it's important we respond to the customer very, very fast is because we want to improve the customer experience or make the customer experience better. Or why do we do a checklist countdown to make sure that we have everything before we start work? It's for safety. Why do we need to ensure that we have a strong password? It's because of security, of data privacy, so that they understand. Okay? Something else you need to be absolutely clear is in this conversation, when you're setting your standards, make sure the non-negotiables are very, very clear. Also, explain that here is a line that you must not cross. Otherwise, there will be consequences for that. A good example could be you can't come to work when you're drunk and you're working on machines. Okay, you cannot allow yourself to dress anyhow without safety gear if you're working in the floor. All that has to be a line that they are aware that they cannot be crossed. Okay, so ensure that is very clear. Number 2, start with systems, not blame. Okay, now being blameless does not mean there are no consequences. Okay, and that's why I am saying that start with systems. The first move here is when something goes wrong, inspect the system first before you point out to the person. And the system I'm referring to the process. Was the process clear? Did I communicate every instruction clearly to them? Was there enough training for them? Do they have enough tools? Do they have enough stuff? Is there prioritization? All that is you do a checklist and say that all 3 things have been done. Okay? Because this will lead to 2 things. If it's a unique mistake, it's a first, this thing has not happened before, then of course you give amnesty and train, or ask them to do like an after action review and see if they have learned from their mistake. Okay, and here is you asking what happened, what made sense at that time, why did you do these things? Once you've done that after action review, and then you come up with what we think you will change. So start with the system. Do not blame the staff immediately. Now, if it's a repetitive mistake, if it repeats the same mistake when you've done all these things, then of course it has to lead to accountability. Okay, because they are guidelines, and if someone keeps breaking them, then that is a person problem, that individual, that staff's problem. So the protocol here is, when you do the system checklist audit and follow through that process, stabilize and fix it if it was a problem. Like if you notice there was lack of training or there was lack of tools, fix that. If a problem occurs, do an after action review, which is normally advisable to be done between 24 hours or 48 hours at maximum. Okay, and then immediately do a remedial training. And if something definitely continues or that problem continues with the staff, initiate a performance plan. Number 3, diagnose the cause. Now that you've analyzed the system, diagnose the cause, then treat it. Because not all misses are equal. Distinguish, because there are 3 reasons why something can happen. 1 could be inexperience, or someone is overwhelmed. So in this case, you can coach them, you can pair them with someone who is very, very, very good at that, or even reduce the scope. Or if it's carelessness, now ensure there are tighter checks. You document some commitments, and even sometimes you can include consequences, like a warning letter. If it's willful non-compliance, then of course remove or access or authority. You can demote them, you can move them to another place that does not involve that. If it persists, then exit. Now, the requirement here, I will say that every mistake includes a short prevention plan. And you can ask them or ask yourself, what will make this less likely next time? Every single time as an individual, what will make this less likely next time? Number 4, The fourth thing you need to do is accountability that motivates. And this starts from your mindset. It goes against conventional wisdom, but if you approach this process this way, it might end up working. And this is, you focus less on who broke it and more who helps fix it. Okay, I know it feels almost warped in that process, but that is the whole purpose. A good example, so a few things they can do is ensure you encourage self-competition. Instead of competing between each other, let them compete with who they were last month. Or last month you did 40% sales. This time it is going by 30. And not you versus Brian, Tom. Okay? Another one is cadence. Here is what I mean. Modulation or inflection of your voice. You can do this by having a weekly one-on-one so that nothing surprises them. I will highly encourage this. Have reviews per week. Remember, here you're going to focus on what is blocking them from meeting the targets they have set and not what they are done. You're not going to sit and then, okay, what have you done this week? So, because you have all the numbers, you know what the issues are. So, okay, this week there is a drop in 10%. What are some of the things we can do to improve? Or if they're doing very well, what are things that we could continue doing? Then reward is a fourth thing you can do, and accountability that motivates. And this is celebrate anyone who hits personal targets. Recognize improvement. Not just the top rank, that any slight improvement, recognize it. And of course, the team has to be aware, has to be brought together, where you need to emphasize that our success is linked. When someone does better, the team does better. And if they know that they can go to someone else within the team to seek help, that also often improves teamwork. So let them know that even if they don't come to you, they can go to Brian, Tom, someone else. So a good script here, you can say that, okay, listen here, Jeremiah, I'm not comparing you with your peers, I'm comparing you with the baseline. So last month you did this month you've done this. What is the one lever that you can pull and make you improve? Number 5, and this I spoke about it in the previous episode. I'm going to focus, I'm not going to spend a little bit, I'm not going to take some more time talking about this, but it's very, very simple. Praise loudly, correct cleanly. It's a sense that need to reprimand silently, one-on-one. But when someone has done very, very well, encourage it. Do it in front of everyone. Please do both often. Okay? Praise what you want repeated. Correct what is needed to be corrected. And do not dwell on it once you've done, especially on what needs to be corrected. Don't dwell on it. Once you've said it, okay, close that specific action and come up with a date on what needs to be done, and then the next steps takes over if they have not done it. Okay. Number 6 is this next step. After you've seen that something is not being adhered to, the plans that you've set are not working, and this is graduated consequences. And this is very, very crucial. It has to be clear, it has to be fair, and it has to be fast. So if there are things that you've done like coaching, you supported them during coaching, make sure it's documented with a measurable target. If there's a plan to improve, make sure it's a 30 or 60 day plan. Don't give it a day or two, and then ensure within the 60 days you have weekly reviews. You provide the tools, the training needed, support, the coaching. Okay. If you notice that there's improvement but you want to sustain it, keep changing the scope, adjust the scope, improve the role, keep nurturing it. Okay. But if nothing happens, and the next illogical or logical step now is separation. If non-negotiables, non-compliance is repeated, you need to let go, which is an immediate removal from the duty. Otherwise, if you really don't action, it might end up affecting the other team members who will see you as not being serious, or you're favoring them over us. Okay, number 7, sorry, that was number 6, graduate consequences. And the last one is a routine or routines that sustain safety and standards. Have a specific routine now. Okay, like after action reviews, when there's an incident, have a checklist culture if there's an issue. That's why like pilots and clinicians or doctors who go to theater have a checklist before they start. Always offer help, even if it's after hours. If someone cannot be available shortly after hours, they can be there. Have peer assistance. You can pair someone with someone exceptionally good if you notice that there's a blockage in terms of, there's supervisor-supervisee relationship that can have a little bit of friction. So give them someone. And then embrace dashboards. This is absolutely clear. Those are the 7 things you can do to ensure there's compliance. And I'm going to repeat them. Number 1 is to make the standard admissible. Number 2, start with the systems and not blame. Number 3, diagnose the cause and treat it. Number 4, accountability that motivates. 5 is praise loud and correct cleanly. Number 6 is graduated consequences. Number 7 is routines that sustain safety and standards. Now, something to, just before we close, something to carry home. If I was to give you conversation starters that can help you start today, something additional. Such wonderful statements like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you in hitting the mark standard for this week? And what will make it? What can I do to make it a 5? You can also ask which step in the process makes errors most likely. Okay, is there a knowledge gap or a standard issue? Okay, that you can ask yourself. You can also, what support do you need from me between now and Friday, so that you can achieve those goals or targets you've set for yourself. And this is the most crucial one. If this recurs, here is the next step we'll take. Does that feel clear and fair to you? Okay. Now, bottom line, psychological safety creates the space to learn. Accountability ensures we actually do. When you center every conversation on the standard and stand beside your people to help them meet it, you get better performance, fewer surprises, and a team proud of how it wins. I do hope that today's episode on accountability, when there's psychological safety, was helpful, and to those of you reached out to ask if I can talk about this, I hope these 7 tools will be helpful. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.